The button in Area 2 was pressed. The priest, the overseer of that area, was incapacitated, and another tale was told by corrosion of Sanson. Jia Zichun asked what technique Sanson was using. She was unable to move at all. Ishmael asked back if she thinks that they were all standing there because they could. Sanson then mentioned that some were possibly jealous of this friendship. One between the adventurer and a knight, bound to invite certain envious hecklers. Don Quixote agreed about this, about the jealousy at least. Then Wei warned Jia Zichun to stay on guard. She told them to wake up, the rest of her faction, to not let the words of Sanson delude them. Sanson then spoke. That's exactly what those hecklers said. Sanson told Don Quixote that she wanted to maintain that true friendship for as long as possible. However, she swung her righteous lance of justice against those that dared to attempt to wedge a divide between them. Don Quixote resisted. Sanson told her that she swung her lance. She was devoting all of her willpower to stopping herself from attacking Jia Zichun, who was concerned about the events that was unfolding. Dante told Don Quixote not to let him. She called him a foul villain. How dare he employs this vile trickery again, attempting to use her lance on him. He dodged and was surprised by this. He saw that the story was cut short, which was tragic. The priest wished to take care of them, only to fail, which was more than could be said for the one that created La Mancha Land, asking if they hear that the parade continues, telling them not to miss the carnival and its parade. Their story must wait until next time. He then flicked his staff against Jia Zichun's group. Most of her forces were knocked unconscious. He disappeared from sight again, and then they had blood bags and blood fiends to deal with. A fight with them happened after that. Well, this was interesting. If someone had enough willpower, they were capable of resisting Sanson's narrative, which Don Quixote had enough of, considering that he was trying to make her do something that went against her principles and her sense of justice. As Jia Zichun wasn't threatening her life, and so was not someone that it would be just to fight without reason. After fighting their enemies, Jia Zichun wanted to know who Sanson was, as he was able to take out her entire faction with a single flick. They didn't stand a chance. That's what Heathcliff wanted to know. Then she called to Don Quixote asking who was she. Sanson was interested in Don Quixote for some reason. Don Quixote suspected that he must have recognized that she was the most dangerous threat against his villainous plan. Yeah, you're a dangerous threat, just not for the reasons that you might think. Her expression translated into, in Chinese, it's Wo Jinggai Duje Guingbai Zhouhua. Or in English, I should have talked to a wall. As the damned dozen were gathering themselves, Wei held the line, going dynasty warriors on the endless horde of blood fiends and bloodbags. He was protecting the others of his group, particularly Jia Zichun. While he didn't like it, as this would mean that he'd have to be separate from her, he advised that she accompany Honglu. She questioned the safety of this, asking what if he tries to kill her? Wei didn't think he would. He was different, unlike the others. Implying that as far as being treacherous is concerned, Honglu sucks. She understands well enough that he wouldn't do that. If it was her older sister, Yuan Chun, and Wei completed that sentence by saying that she would have sent assassins after her the moment they first met. She confirmed this. In fact, this would apply to any of her siblings except him. Either that or she wasn't even worth that much effort. Wei saw young Master Bai Yu as their only hope. Ah, yes. The true name in the source material of Honglu is Jia Bao Yu. Yeah, I'm not sure about the pronunciation. Okay, I'll get to that in more detail when we get to his chapter, but that's not relevant right now. Wei asked Jia Zichun if she can hear the endless melodies. Jia Zichun understood this to mean that something went wrong in Area 3. Honglu asked her if she's coming with them. She considers this a temporary alliance, understanding that neither of them are interested in the reward money. They're looking for something else. Until they get what they want. Honglu compared this to a situation in the past where they'd be fighting again once their grandmother's snack runs out. Urtis considered it, well, her quite haughty for someone who should be grovelling at them for help. Jia Zichun commented that she and her forces cleaned up Area 2 in less than an hour. They only got there after they finished. Well, clearly your group missed some. Roger argued that they forgot to pick something up, so they had to backtrack. They wiped the floor with them in less than 30 minutes. This was reassuring to Jia Zichun. They'll have no problems, or even trouble, cleaning up once she joins them. A useful first-rate silver saishi, or an ingot of a precious metal, either silver or gold, which was legal tender from the start of the Qin dynasty, which was 221 years before the birth of Christ, to the overthrow of the monarchy in 1912. It's derived from saisi, or fine silk, the word specifically. She considered them on quite even ground, so why would she grovel for help? Heathcliff was, well, at a loss for words for how shameless she is. He can see the family resemblance now. Honglu thought that was a compliment, laughing at this. Jia Zichun, on the other hand, considered it an insult. Heathcliff noticed that Sanson grabbed the priest as well. Sinclair remembered that he took the barber earlier. What's getting to Heathcliff is that he says absolutely bonkers with a straight face, like he's the only sane man. Faust understood this to be to collect necessary stage props or the main cast. They need to keep their eyes on the stage play that he wished to show them, as they've yet to observe the specifics of his intent. Urtis was angered by Don Quixote for not keeping her big mouth shut. Don Quixote nervously told her that she couldn't stop herself when asked to regale them with her truly ingenious adventures. She spoke them due to compulsion. Sinclair agreed with Jia Zichun that he could have taken them out if he wanted to, but he didn't. Ishmael hated this, not liking that they're seen as playthings to him. Sinclair wanted to ask Dante something, calling them over to him. Dante wanted to know what this was about. Sinclair was sure that they've noticed this, but he wanted to make sure. That mission that they're on. He hesitated. Sorry. He hesitated to say this. What he was about to say, unsure of how to word this, then looked at them with a degree of conviction that this was all about Don Quixote, and she was unaware of this. Meanwhile, Don Quixote was enraged by letting Sanson slip away. Roger could see that when she excitedly told them about the duel, how was she supposed to know that this request to hear that tale would have such seductive strength? Angered by how she allowed herself to be seduced like that, she would need to train her mind better once that mission was complete. Dante then looked back at Sinclair after seeing Don Quixote blissfully ignorant of what was going on. Dante was as conflicted as they were, and they knew what Don Quixote really was. Sinclair understood that Dante had good reasons for not telling them what they knew earlier. Dante didn't deny this, and then Sinclair reminded Dante of the mission in Chapter 3, when Coll was burning, and Don Quixote had to beat him in front of his burning mansion. Dante remembered that day. It was after they killed Guido. Sinclair saw it as embarrassing now. Don Quixote said to him that he was losing control and that he had to return to his senses. It needed courage and determination to do that. She stepped in without hesitation. She wanted to follow her example, but he has some way to go before that. He's asking if it's too much to hope for. Dante saw it as a good thing to hope for, and then Don Quixote asked what they were speaking of, and this startled Sinclair. She noticed that he was caught off guard, wanting to know what was it. Dante nervously said that they were talking about the contract. She's asked if they figured it out. Seeing no other way to look at it. This mission was all about Honglu. Dante was not impressed, then asked what she meant by that. Don Quixote advised them to improve their insight. Honglu's expression was outside of normal for him that day. Sinclair failed to see what was different that day. Then she spoke of a reunion with his sister, along with the names of his other relatives, including familial drama. That's putting it mildly. She can't remember having any family, but she imagines this to be quite harrowing, so Dante didn't know what was going on there. She advised that they take care of Honglu. They're going through their adventures just fine. Yeah, with a few mental breakdowns during them. Even so, Dante couldn't deny it. She added that it was like a journey of suffering. They need to remain steadfast through the trials and tribulations. She then offered to share a tale that takes place in a tavern, where they then headed towards Area 3 while she was telling this tale. They paid more attention to this, but the story was largely useless. When they arrived at Area 3, they found a carnival. Now, to put it into perspective, the carnival is a festival in Spain that is celebrated around February, where the people can let loose before Lent. And during Lent, certainly in the Middle Ages, fun things and eating meat was not permitted. So the partying was just an excuse to eat as much meat as possible and have as much fun before then. There's a lot of street parties and also a parade where performers in colourful costumes walk in the middle of the road in a procession. How it's celebrated varies from region to region. It's also celebrated in Venice, although it's more elegant, along with Brazil, where it's more charged with energy. As for the variations in Spain, in the north, it involves animal masks due to certain pagan traditions. Well, I can say this with confidence as I actually have family in that part of Spain. While around Catalonia, which was around the northeast of Spain, with Barcelona being a major city, as in close to the French/Andorran border, there are a few variations. In Salsana, it involves donkey hanging, although thankfully not a real one, as that would get the animal cruelty people, the charities, well, whatever you want to call it, that would get them angered. In Villanova y la Geltrú, it involves a battle fought by throwing meringue pies. Who'd notice a clown there? Ciudad Rodrigo. Now that area's festival involves bulls. As for Area 3, it's called the Eternal Carnival. In front of a group was a long parade. The end was outside of their field of vision. It seemed full of joy and celebration. People marching in rows, singing seemingly without end. The music seemed hopeful and cheerful. They almost wanted to join them and dance along to the carnival procession. This would be the case if it wasn't full of shambling blood bags and the sobbing and pleading of its victims. Then they heard the singing of those in the procession. The lyrics go, "Let us march together, O happy hour," to the beat of upbeat drums. Without worries or concerns, here at the Grand Carnival of La Mancha. This shows that, well, how they're at least trying to create an illusion that they're all fine and they're all happy. Sadly, the captive victim dispels that illusion. Urtis asked what lay ahead. Then a parasol holding blood fiend saw a new guest. They've been getting so many that day. What lies ahead? It was Dulcinea, the beautiful, the lady of the parade. Honglu asked if there are any other fixers around. This was mildly annoying to Jia Sichun, asking her brother if he still hasn't learned to read the room after all this time. The blood fiend saw two possibilities. They're either blood-bagged and dancing with them, or killed the blood bags and made it to the front. Ishmael understood that they needed to keep moving to the front. The blood fiend wanted them to stay with them and dance. Now, in this battle and any others until it's stated otherwise, Jia Sijun will provide assistance. But like with Virgilius, the Red Gaze in Chapter 6, Dante cannot direct her movements, largely because she doesn't hear them. Her combat style is a mix of blunt force strikes and the cutting of her fan weapon, and she mostly deals rupture, but can gain poise and also inflict bleed. She grows stronger the more negative status effects are on the target, so it's a good idea to have a variety of status effects being inflicted by the selected team members. She also has a dance of buffing, where her own damage is buffed while the enemy is debuffed. those that she kills grants her poise to the point, well, to the amount of rupture she has on her target, but has defenses that can lower. And if she loses a clash, blunt force attacks are least effective, while slash attacks, they should be avoided as she's weakest to that. There was a break in the fighting. Dante looked at Don Quixote briefly and then looked at Faust. They had to know the answer to that question before moving forward. Dante asked Faust that, well, if the Faust network knew why, what caused Don Quixote to transform back then? Faust confirmed this by saying that, well, she saw no reason to hide this any longer, since it's where it's most needed. For blood fiends, going against the bloodstream might as well be a taboo, such as when Cassetti attempted to turn a blood fiend into his kindred, a lower kindred attempting to turn a higher blood fiend. Dante asked if Moses said that there was a psychological barrier that made it practically impossible for them to do that. Faust saw a variable then. Rocinante, as long as they remained on her feet, she'd be able to pass for human, although it wouldn't remove her desire for blood, which explained why she ate raw meat, even raw chicken, and surprisingly she didn't contract food poisoning. Where she's able to satisfy her bloodthirst without avoiding detection, and just seem like she's a complete lunatic. Well, it at least dampens her desire for blood enough for her to maintain at least some rational thoughts. When Rocinante sensed that Cassetti was about to break a blood fiend taboo, they slipped off her feet on her own. Then Don Quixote's blood fiend nature resurfaced, and she was and disgusted at Cassetti, which is why he was turned into a pile of melted fleshy goo. Dante wanted to know what was coming, but Heathcliff was impatient and angered. He wanted to know where the end of the line was. Urtis basically told him to quit talking and clear the path so that Dante won't have to suffer these monsters. You heard her, Heathcliff. Go and smash their skulls in. This stopped Dante. Faust asked if they wanted to ask about more, and they said no. But they had more questions to ask. But Faust likely didn't have the answers to them. Dante told her that what matters now is to keep moving forward. Then the singing became dark and depressing in tone. I'm going insane from this burning thirst in the streets. A blood fiend saw that group of humans as being so many tasty morsels for them. Then the lyrics continued with, as it tears, my nails are falling off. As it cracks, my hands and my face. Keep smiling with those lips. Then a blood fiend said that they couldn't move their lips, stuck in a smile. The only thing that I would think of that could do this on a large scale is if the Joker hijacked the parade and gave them all a dose of Joker toxin. And considering that they can regenerate, they'd actually survive it. Ishmael understood the tone of the lyrics. Urtis did as well. They were getting increasingly depressing. They forced more of the blood fiends in the way, and yes, the lyrics of that part of the song made it clear that the bloodthirst was both physically and psychologically painful, and yet they're forced to maintain a cheerful facade, even to the point where they can't stop and they look like plastic surgery gone wrong. Actually, no. Considering what's under those masks, they could use plastic surgery. Also, this song was sung in the cutscene by the same voice actress as Don Quixote. After more battles, they reached the highlight of the parade, and the song changed again. The lyrics went, "And we built our very own happy kingdom. Say goodbye to pain. Rest well, O Father. All be jolly now, at this kingdom of joy, at the Manchaland. Come one, come all." Yes, if you want to listen to that song, it's something that can be searched for. Anyway, back to the story. At this point, Dante saw someone who was the center of everyone's attention. Dante asked if she was Dulcinea, the one under the garish violet parasol. Under her feet was someone slowly dying. Ensnared by, in this bizarre spectacle, it was Romero, blood fiend hunter of the Fang Hunt office. Jia Zichun was surprised that even the hunters failed. Don Quixote demanded that Dulcinea stop her villainy in this instance. This caught that blood fiend's attention, quietly regarding them from behind her mask. From under her parasol, she told her to speak, asking why should they stop. Don Quixote saw it as a question with a simple answer, one that's obvious, because her villainy is unjust. They've come to rain destruction on La Mancha Land, demanding that she speak plainly of her founder's location and accept her rightful punishments. Now, I'd ask her if she was completely sane, but I think we know the answer to that, at least. Dulcinea saw that she was still playing childish games. Don Quixote didn't see it as that, seeing it as part of her adventure. Then Dulcinea saw her eyes. She always hated them. They had a look of arrogant disinterest, as if it wasn't worth her attention, that she wasn't a part of this. She was simply a detached, observer. She longed to see her eyes twinkle vividly again, and now that she sees that, she still hates them. It's still as foul, revolting, and hateful as ever. Every day they paraded in a circle, in the same routes, with the very same hearts, wishing for the new day to begin. Then she mentioned that Cassetti was the prince of the parade, who left them to build his own kingdom, who, unknown to her, is now dead. She saw that a lone princess should be enough to rouse their guests. Ishmael asked if it was her that hypnotized people with that music. She implied no, as she was also charmed by this illusion. They seemed to think of her as the mistress of the parade, that she led the path, only because she was standing in the front of it. Because she's Dulcinea, the most beautiful, the most noble, the most vain, I might add. She was given the role of carnival lady. She doesn't lead it. She's just another attraction of the parade. Ryushu saw this now for what it was. A parade of broken things, biting one another, one after another, in a cycle of infinity. Don Quixote didn't like that comparison, yet she didn't have an argument against that. Dulcinea asked if they saw now. La Mancha Land is where they relive their beginnings and ends, because an amusement park is no place for those that aren't happy, doomed to repeat the times when they were still happy in themselves. Only then will their memories be tainted by happiness. Gregor understood that the fixers assigned to that area were all dead. Then Romero, who's turning into a blood bag, Well, he's in the process of turning into one anyway, as he's still retaining his mind, so it is funny. The other fixers assigned to them in that area stabbed them in the back and doomed them all, seeing it as pathetic, all that posturing just to die there. Dulcinea didn't see it that way. They joined the parade as they weren't worthy to have a part in the ending. Seeing humans devoured and driven by hatred, they sought no betterment, no happiness, nothing else to do than to slaughter as many of them as possible, seeing this as hideous and pitiful. They only wished to relive their memories. Don Quixote was struggling to hide her disgust at her excuses. No discussions of worthiness were needed to bring judgments. Their kind slayed humans and committed all kinds of immoralities just for blood. Is that all there is for such a small reason? For some puerile, insignificant, and trivial reason? Condemning them for depriving the humans' right to live for gluttony. Dulcinea, she looked silent, looking into the distance, focusing more on the past, and then closed her eyes. She then made it clear that she now feels envy towards Don Quixote. She had everything that they wanted. Just for claiming that name as her own, those twinkling innocent eyes. She still hated them. Then the battle began. Now, the barber was at level 70, and Dulcinea was at level 85. Ooh, clearly these blood fiends are older. Either that or they've been feeding recently. Now, the more clashes she wins, the higher her SP becomes, and losing clashes, it decreases her SP. When her subordinates kills one of the combatants, it also increases, and piercing damage should be avoided as she's resistant to that, and she's weakest to lust, gluttony, and envy, but strongest against sloth and to a lesser extent gloom. Like all blood fiends, she inflicts bleed. And if she hits, she can buff allies with defense buffs and also buff her own defense. If they have enough bleed and gain bleed, if she doesn't have enough blood feast, that status that happens when bleed occurs, she can also gain Blooming Thorn, which inflicts bleed equal to half of that stack on the attacker, rounded up. She can also deal more damage with 3 Festive Fever. She can also inflict a little rupture with 1 attack. But SP can be lost, or the damage of her attack weapons can be lower if a specific attack is lost. There are different phases to this battle, where at 66% or less, minimum and maximum speed is increased by 1. And Blooming Thorn becomes Blood-Woven Thorn, which inflicts bleed and bleed count with each hit, along with granting attack and defense buffs. And 1 more coin power is granted to those that have this, and all allies gain 3 Festive Fever and 3 Blooming Thorn, where at 33% or less, minimum and maximum speed increases by 2. And defenses are weakened against slash, pierce, and blunts. The thorns are converted into Blood-Mounded Thorn, which is like Blood-Woven Thorn, but stronger, and when using a specific powerful attack, it heals for SP rather than HP, which she can still use if she has 5 or more Imperfect Parades status. She has strong protection as well, which needs allies to be killed to weaken it. Yes, a protective shield is there. That's one constant. She'll also be more agile if she doesn't take any damage, and if all of her allies are dead, she'll be staggered. Yes, this is one case where her shield can be bypassed by rupture, as that will cause damage that can get past that shield. The Damned Dozen and Ja Zichun proceeded to defeat the one leading the parade, although that wasn't without a lot of efforts. She did not make it easy. Belshanair was defeated, but that's not the end of Act 2. Until next time, hail the rabbit!